The debate is taking place at Berkeley College of Political Science. Dr. Rebecca Langley, a liberal professor, is facing Barron Trump, the youngest son of former President Donald Trump. The stage is set for an intense political exchange. Dr. Langley enters the debate with confidence, expecting an easy win. She feels her progressive viewpoints will easily overshadow Barron's less established stance. The students are excited to witness the event, anticipating a one-sided discussion. She begins the debate by challenging Barron on a variety of political and economic issues, eager to expose the flaws in his arguments and highlight the differences between liberal and conservative ideologies. Barron responds calmly and logically, using precision and facts to counter Dr. Langley's arguments. He critiques the progressive policies she supports, bringing up their practical consequences and unintended effects on different social groups. Barron dives into a discussion on economic disparities, questioning the effectiveness of progressive policies in addressing wealth inequality. He argues that such policies may inadvertently widen the gap and hurt the very people they intend to help. Barron shifts the conversation to universities and their role in regulating speech. He challenges the growing trend of censoring certain viewpoints and questions whether universities should be in the business of controlling discourse. Barron passionately argues against censorship, making the case that it stifles intellectual diversity and prevents students from engaging in healthy debates. He asserts that open dialogue is crucial for developing critical thinking skills. As Barron continues to challenge her points with logical, well-thought-out arguments, Dr. Langley begins to feel the pressure. She becomes more defensive, struggling to address his critiques while maintaining her progressive stance. The students in the audience are visibly engaged, with the tension in the room rising as Barron holds his ground and Dr. Langley struggles to find effective rebuttals. Dr. Langley, overwhelmed by Barron's well-reasoned arguments, begins to question her own ideological stance. This moment of vulnerability is subtle but significant. The audience notices her unease as she starts to reconsider the validity of some of her long-held beliefs. Barron continues to stand firm, but now with an added layer of confidence. His well-rounded, factual responses seem to be causing Dr. Langley to rethink her approach. His calm demeanor contrasts with her increasing frustration, leading to a shift in the energy of the debate. The turning point arrives when Dr. Langley hesitates before responding to one of Barron's points, showing visible signs of doubt. This moment is pivotal as it signals a potential shift in her perspective. The audience, initially leaning toward Dr. Langley's progressive views, begins to show more mixed reactions. Some are nodding in agreement with Barron's arguments, while others seem to sympathize with Dr. Langley's struggle. This adds another layer of complexity to the atmosphere. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Dr. Langley admits that some of Barron's points have made her question the effectiveness of certain progressive policies. She begins to express doubts about the practicality of some of her previous arguments, and the audience grows silent in anticipation. With a calm and composed tone, Barron delivers his closing argument. He reinforces the importance of open dialogue, the dangers of ideological echo chambers, and the need for intellectual diversity. His conclusion leaves the audience reflecting on the points he raised. After Barron's closing argument, Dr. Langley sits silently for a moment, reflecting on the points he made. She seems to be internally grappling with the implications of his perspective, weighing her progressive ideals against the practical outcomes Barron has highlighted. This moment of self-reflection offers a glimpse of her internal struggle. The debate slows down as Dr. Langley pauses, unsure of how to respond. The room is quiet, and the audience feels the weight of the moment. This pause is tense, as everyone waits to see if Dr. Langley will offer a counter-argument, or if she will acknowledge Barron's points. Dr. Langley, still somewhat flustered, speaks up. She admits that while she still believes in many of the core ideals of her ideology, Barron's well-reasoned arguments have made her realize that change and progress require a more nuanced approach. She acknowledges that she had not considered some of the unintended consequences of progressive policies, and that the challenge of finding practical solutions is greater than she had assumed. Barron, with a slight smile, nods in acknowledgement of Dr. Langley's vulnerability and self-awareness. He commends her for being open to reevaluating her stance and emphasizes that intellectual Growth comes from embracing differing viewpoints. His reaction is respectful, showing that he values the open dialogue rather than simply winning the debate. The debate winds down with both Dr. Langley and Barron offering a final, reflective remark. Dr. Langley expresses that this conversation has given her a lot to think about, and she plans to dive deeper into some of the issues Barron raised. Barron echoes his belief in the importance of diverse ideas and the role of education in fostering that diversity. The debate officially ends, but the atmosphere in the room is far from settled. The audience remains divided. Some applaud Barron's composure and rationality, while others admire Dr. Langley for her honesty and vulnerability. There's a palpable sense of reflection among the students, as many are reconsidering their own views on the issues discussed. As the formal debate concludes, a student from the audience asks a pointed question that challenges both Dr. Langley and Barron. The question touches on a gray area that neither had fully addressed. How do they navigate the intersection of idealism and pragmatism in policymaking without compromising core values? This question reignites the conversation, pulling both participants back into a more in-depth exploration. Dr. Langley takes the question head-on, now speaking with a more measured tone. She acknowledges that the balance between idealism and pragmatism is difficult, but essential. She admits that progress requires compromise, and that her own work has been too focused on pushing for ideal solutions without considering the practicalities that make them achievable. This marks a shift in her thinking, a growth from rigid ideology to a more flexible, nuanced approach. Barron responds thoughtfully, expanding on his previous points about the importance of balancing idealism with pragmatic solutions. He underscores that compromise is not a weakness, but a strength in navigating complex issues, and that finding a common ground is often where the real solutions emerge. His response shows maturity and a deep understanding of the complexities in policymaking. The final exchange between Dr. Langley and Barron is less about defending opposing ideologies and more about acknowledging the difficulty of enacting meaningful change. There's a mutual respect now, as both realize that the pursuit of solutions is not always a clear-cut battle between two sides, but an ongoing dialogue that requires open-mindedness and adaptability. As the debate nears its close, both Dr. Langley and Barron agree that conversations like these are essential for bridging ideological divides. They both express a desire for continued dialogue, emphasizing that there is no single correct approach to solving complex societal issues. The students, too, seem energized by the notion of engaging in more thoughtful, respectful exchanges in the future. After the debate officially wraps up, a student who has been quietly observing throughout the session raises their hand. They share how Barron's approach has changed their view on conservative principles, while also noting how Dr. Langley's willingness to rethink her position has inspired them to embrace a more balanced perspective. The student's reflection serves as a microcosm of the broader shift in the room, highlighting the transformative impact of the debate on the audience. Just as the conversation seems to be winding down, Dr. Langley surprises everyone by offering a more personal insight into her own journey as an educator. She admits that, over time, she had become too entrenched in her beliefs, which led to a sense of intellectual rigidity. She thanks Barron for reminding her of the importance of humility in the pursuit of truth. This moment adds depth to her character, showing her vulnerability and growth beyond just political ideologies. Barron, in turn, opens up a bit more about his own experiences and the challenges of being a young voice in a highly polarized political environment. He speaks about how his views have been shaped by both his upbringing and his own exploration of diverse perspectives, not simply by the political ideologies surrounding him. This personal touch from Barron provides the audience with a deeper understanding of who he is, and further humanizes his stance. The room starts to feel less like an arena for ideological combat and more like a space for collective learning. While the students may not agree on everything, there's a growing sense that the real goal is not to win the debate but to understand each other better. Dr. Langley and Barron both acknowledge that while they may continue to disagree on certain policies, their shared commitment to intellectual honesty and respectful dialogue is the most important takeaway. As the debate winds down, both Dr. Langley and Barron offer brief but powerful closing remarks. Dr. Langley emphasizes the need for humility in public discourse, especially in a world that seems increasingly divided. Barron echoes her sentiments but adds that the next generation of leaders must also be willing to bridge divides, rather than perpetuate them. Their closing exchange encapsulates the essence of the debate, a respectful acknowledgement of differences, paired with a shared commitment to growth and dialogue. As the event concludes, the students linger for a moment, some deep in thought, others discussing the ideas presented. A few groups of students, who were once in stark opposition, now engage in conversations that are more collaborative than combative. It's clear that the debate has left an impression that will extend beyond the event itself. As the students begin to fall out of the auditorium, there's an unusual quietness in the air. Conversations are softer, more thoughtful. Instead of the usual quick debates about who won, students seem to be processing the complexity of the discussion they just witnessed. Some are continuing their conversations in small groups, while others are jotting down notes or contemplating the insights shared. Backstage, as Dr. Langley prepares to leave the venue, she pauses for a moment, looking out the window. She reflects on how Barron's calm and methodical approach forced her to confront the rigidity she had unknowingly developed over the years. She takes a deep breath, feeling a sense of personal growth. A small, genuine smile crosses her face. She knows this debate has impacted her more than she initially expected. Barron, too, leaves the stage with a feeling of accomplishment. He doesn't feel victorious, but there's a sense of relief in knowing that, for once, the discussion was about true dialogue, not just winning or scoring points. He walks through the hall, occasionally stopping to shake hands with a few students who were particularly engaged by his points. Barron is not just his father's son, he's beginning to make his own mark, and this night will stay with him for a long time. In the hallway, a few students linger near the exit. One of them turns to the others, reflecting on how the debate challenged their assumptions and the importance of embracing diverse viewpoints. The debate may have concluded, but the seeds of change have been planted. Dr. Langley and Barron leave the college that night with their perspectives altered, but their commitment to engaging in open dialogue remains unwavering. The students, too, leave with a renewed sense of purpose, not to simply debate for the sake of winning, but to engage with others in a way that fosters growth and understanding. The room no longer feels like a battleground of ideas but a shared space for learning, where every voice, regardless of political leanings, has value. As the weeks go by, the debate becomes a significant talking point on campus. Professors bring up the event in their classes. Students cite the debate in discussions, and the college administration even uses the event as an example of how higher education should promote respectful dialogue. The lasting impact isn't just the shift in individual beliefs but a broader change in how students approach controversial topics with openness, respect, and the willingness to listen. And with that, the story concludes. Dr. Langley and Barron, though from opposing ideological backgrounds, find common ground in their commitment to intellectual honesty, humility, and the importance of dialogue in bridging divides. The event has transformed not only their personal perspectives, but the broader campus culture, creating a ripple effect that will influence future debates and conversations for years to come.